Hi everyone, this is Adnan Baranbo and this is a new episode of AVIAPRENEURS podcast. My topics for today's episode is automating aviation operations. And my guest for today's episode to discuss this topic is Mr. Pawel Kruk. Good day, Pawel. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello everybody, and thank you for having me. Hi.
Pawel is an aviapreneur from Poland. He has more than 15 years of experience in the aviation industry. In 2007, he started Leon Software. It's a cloud-based flight management and scheduling software that allows business aviation operators and commercial airlines to automate their operations. Besides being the CEO and the founder of Leon Software, earlier in his career, Pawel was a flight dispatcher, a business aviation pilot working for JetStory and Lux Aviation, besides being a commercial pilot. So Pawel, we're gonna start just talking about Leon Software. It's very beautiful to have an idea, to see a potential business opportunity, and then to seize that opportunity and transform it into a successful, growing, stable aviation business that's currently employing more than 40 employees. So can you share with us the story of when the idea of starting Leon Software came to your mind?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say it was an accident. I know it sounds funny, but at the very beginning, when we started to do the software, I didn't think about creating a company at all. Apart from my aviation experience, before actually I started to be involved in aviation, I was doing a lot of IT. I was this kind of IT geek kind of guy. So I have been doing a lot of stuff related to computers. And once when I was hired as a dispatcher in one Polish company, we did everything on paper. And together with my friends, we thought it doesn't make sense. Let's do something which is a little bit better, maybe a little bit better than Excel spreadsheet, but completely not sophisticated. We didn't think about selling this at that point. So we created that for one company, actually to allow our work to be easier. And eventually another company who was actually a customer of that company asked us about the software, and slowly, we were actually in the middle of delivering something to Polish customers. So that was the beginning. It was just from our own requirement. We had the necessity. There was no business plan. I haven't been a businessman then. I didn't have any clue about how to create a business. It was just it was just doing what I wanted to do to do my work, and it eventually transformed into business.
So how did you, having an idea and having the technical skills in terms of IT and aviation definitely were sufficient for you to come up with the idea and to create the software. But taking that software and making it currently it's a medium-sized business, is not just requiring technical skills. As you mentioned, you were not a businessman. So this required you to have additional skills to make that idea a successful business. How do you complemented the skills you lack to make Leon Software company?
Well, again, I had a lot of luck because I was lucky enough to cooperate with people who are smart. I mean, our shareholders, Anna, who is doing sales, and Pavel, who is our CTO. They were both involved at the very beginning in creation of Leon, and neither do they were businessmen in kind of traditional sense of how to name it. And we were all learning by our own mistakes, and it was like 15 years journey. So at every stage of this journey, we had to adapt some kind of knowledge, of course. So there were a couple of very critical points, I would say. We were just looking for this knowledge outside of our business, like taking courses or checking how other IT companies are doing typical stuff. The software as a service business, which we are doing, is not very complicated in terms of logistics and organization. This is just, you know, if you have a right product and you know how to invoice your customers, how to deliver, how to do the customer support, you know how to do those basic stuff, then I guess you can handle organization like that without being very professional, let's say, very experienced with doing so. But I would lie if I wouldn't say that it doesn't require any skill. There are specific things you need to care about in order to proceed to succeed, I think, and we realize that by mistakes as well. And one is, for example, just to be very careful and strict on defining what you actually want to do, you know, because when you are growing, when you have more customers, those customers want to do different things on top of what you're already doing. And you have a choice whether you expand your product portfolio, or you add another features, or you basically make the product more and more complicated, covering more modules, more everything, or you refuse them and you say to them, no, we're not going to do that. We are just concentrating on our stuff, which is that and that and that. And you need to allow some customers to go away. And so this is a trade-off. But you are then very, very good at this narrow thing you are doing, right? So if you're a niche company, we are a niche company, we learned that it's better to be really concentrated, to be radical focused on the idea rather than distract yourself and do different things, you know, which actually ends up in doing everything on medium level rather than doing one specific thing, which you can do then polish and do this very good. So this was very important lesson for us. And the second one was about how to make customers happy in terms of customer support. Those things are really basic. Like, for example, customer wants to be serviced, not essentially they need to have something solved the very next day, but they need to be responded. They need to be, you know, there need to be a communication with them. It's very important. But this is common, and of course agile. When we learned agile, so technically speaking, how to logistically create software in cycles. We do agile kind of software development, and most companies, most IT companies do that nowadays. That was a massive advance in our ability to develop, to grow, to build bigger teams, to manage people now all working remotely. So it was very, very important, and I think it contributed to our success. Yes.
I love this story because it means and it proves that entrepreneurship is not just a straightforward process. It's a series of continuous learnings, mistakes, listening to customers, adapting, and continuing development. It's a very beautiful story. But you mentioned that customers were sending you demands for new features, new modules. When you started Leon Software, it was mainly scheduling software for aircraft and the crew, but now it's more than that. It's almost a complete ERP and CRM for the business aviation operations. So did you actually added modules and went out a little from the first focus you were working on when you started?
Yes, I would say, yeah, it's a constant search for the compromise between building more and concentrating on what you are doing. So, for example, at the very beginning, we started from doing just ops module because I have been a dispatcher, and as I said at the very beginning, we wanted to make our work easier, so we did just the ops tool. And at the very beginning, it was sufficient. There were customers buying the product just for the ops tool. But then after years of doing this, we realized that actually, if we want to compete on the market, we need to have the proper sales module, because this is something market is expecting. Market doesn't want to build ops and sales from different modules and tie this together. There are other features which they are happy to build from modules. Like, for example, let me give you an example, EFB. EFB is this kind of module. You don't, I mean, it's nice to have it, but if you don't have it, then it doesn't mean that customer is not going to buy your software, because he can easily complement this with another module from another supplier. And for example, flight planning software is another I would say area where you don't need typically to integrate FMS with flight planning software. So we recognized where is the market expecting the one product, and we cannot divide it, and we just continue developing that. And of course, the market is very small. You know, if we think about business aviation in general, we are concentrated on Europe, but even if we talk worldwide, we are talking about, you know, the industry where we serve on in total 200,000 people. 200,000 people are end customers of business aviation in general, who needs to buy jets, who needs, you know, everything. So this is really fundamentally small market, and we have right now quite a lot of players on this market. So we are swimming in a small pool, and dividing this pool into smaller chunks, it's challenging. So at one point we had to look for alternatives in terms of another customer types, like cargo customers. Actually, they contacted us first. We didn't have any kind of specific features for them, but they contacted us because we realized there is a gap on the market as well there. And just a little bit by coincidence, we found the most critical points we need to deliver to serve cargo customers or small airlines or trip support companies, because those are typical customers of Leon software. And we just add small things to expand our market. So that's a compromise, you know. I mean, yes, we added some modules, but we are constantly trying not to add them too much.
Yeah, I completely understand. But does this mean that from system perspective, does this mean that the requirements of commercial operators, whether cargo or passengers, are somehow similar to business aviation operators in a way that allowed you to make a smooth transition from being a system for business aviation to moving into commercial aviation?
I would say that the most similarities comes from the way you operate the aircraft, rather than are you an airline or a business charter operator. So if you are flying ad hoc, then it's a completely different story than if you are flying schedule. If you are flying schedule, then you have a lot of things prearranged, like handling fuel, you have contracts already in place, and there are different challenges. So there is a part of the software which is very common, like, for example, licenses, training records for pilots, but also there is completely different area, like managing schedule. Managing schedule is not existing in business aviation because you don't have any schedule, right? So we had to deliver a complete new module, which is a scheduler for building schedules. And then you have other challenges as well. While simultaneously, it's not so important to have all those nice features for managing ad hoc flights, like arranging handlings, arranging fuel. You don't typically need that if you're an airline, because you have everything contracted. And if you're flying charter or ad hoc, then okay, yes, but there is a little bit different set of tools for airlines, and definitely we are lacking a lot of them. We are still lacking a lot of them. So it's not that we are already there and we are, you know, a strong player on airline market. We are not. We are rather a small player for small airlines, and we are slowly moving from there. So you can find some similarities, but I would say roughly maybe 30% of those features are similar, and I would say 70% are kind of different. That's just my gut feeling.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you're mainly focused on cargo in commercial. From commercial perspective, you're mainly focusing on cargo airlines and small passenger airlines. Do you have any plans to grow Leon software to be serving the big commercial schedule airline industry?
No, I mean, we don't have any plans, because we realize that you know, although we might have a plans, it's a reality then later, which checks if those plans are deliverable. Of course, we would like to service bigger customers, service bigger airlines, but it's a long process. We didn't anticipate that. We didn't anticipate that airline market is so challenging, and I think we underestimated the amount of features you need to have to service those type of customers. Although there is still, we think there's an opportunity on the market because those big players like Ames or Lido or Netline, they are strong there because this is really complicated stuff they are delivering, a lot of features, a lot of functions. But we believe that sooner or later this ecosystem of softwares which are being installed on desktop computers will eventually be replaced by cloud-based softwares, exactly the same we did with FMS for business aviation. Because once we started our company in 2007, majority of people were saying that we are crazy expecting that somebody would buy a software in the cloud. Everybody was expecting to have on locally installed software on computer. This changed, and the whole IT industry is moving into that direction. And I think it's inevitable that the same will happen in airline market. We are hoping so. So we would like to be a part of that. And of course, we don't have so much funds as those big companies, but we believe that we can deliver for smaller airlines this flexibility with less cost, basically speaking. So yeah, we have plans, but we'll see how that will go.
I'm sure you will be able to do that. It's, as you mentioned, a complicated process, but knowing you and your story, I hope I will see it happening one day. So at the same time, when you started and when you're gaining new customers, selling, scheduling, and flight management software for aviation industry is not an easy sale. The customers might be, as you mentioned, when you started, might be working in the manual way. So it's not easy to convince them to automate, or they might be using another software. So this is a major change to change the software they are using. So how do you sell Leon software? Because it's a complicated sale.
Yeah, this is again a funny story. I would say we are not selling. I mean, as crazy as it sounds, we are not selling. I mean, technically speaking, we are selling, but we believe that the product needs to be, we are a very product-oriented company. So our main focus is to have strong product team, a lot of developers, a lot of quality around the product. And we are focusing on servicing incoming leads to us. So if you want to buy Leon, we will not approach you, basically speaking, because we know that it's a very small window of opportunity when you want to switch from one software to another. As you mentioned, it's very difficult. You are deeply involved into one system, and changing this to another software is a nightmare. So usually you need to be really sure you want to change the software. You are pissed off with the previous one, or maybe your automation is too less advanced, whatever. Sooner or later, let's say you are coming to us and just say us an email, and then we are selling. We do not sell by approaching to customers actively, completely not doing that. And this allows us to have actually, two people in sales. We have 2 people in sales, and majority of other people just on the product. So in the long term, I think it's a better strategy than just investing in a lot of people doing sales, who are then doing a lot of work approaching those customers and trying to convince them to change the software, and they are not ready to change the software. And it works. I mean, I'm not a sales expert, and but I must say that this strategy works really good. To have the strong product, I believe that having the strong product in the long term will sell itself almost, if you are known on the market. Because of course, if nobody would know anything about Leon, then probably nobody would even send us an email. But this is a small industry, so you don't need to be a big company to be recognized sooner or later. It's not a big industry.
It's a nice situation you are in, and I'm sure your hard work and all the efforts you and your team put all over the years that led you to being able to sell by inbound sales. I mean, there is word of mouth spreading in the small industry, as you mentioned, about how good Leon software is, and then your team doesn't have to do outbound sales, cold calling, and convincing the customer to change. Because when the customer contacts you, they are already sold. They already know that they have a need and they want to switch.
Yeah,
And you just
of course
serve
I would
them.
lie.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course we have cases like that somebody recommends us and say to us, oh, we'll talk to that guy because he's maybe willing to talk about the software. Then we are calling, of course. But I can tell you, we did try to make this cold approach, cold leads, and sending some kind of leaflets, letters, all went completely without any effects, any noticeable effects, you know. So you know, I know it may sound crazy, but if you know that the product is good, and I'm not comparing Leon to Rolex. Don't get me into that thinking. But nobody is going to you and trying to sell you a Rolex watch. You want to buy a Rolex watch, right? It's a completely different mindset. I'm not saying that the Leon is a Rolex watch, but if you are trying to sell too aggressively, then you are sending the message to the customer that you need to make this effort to convince him. And it's really harder to sell, in opposite to the situation where when the customer is maybe curious a little bit and ask you about something, and then you pull him over to your side, right? I mean, it's a, as you said, it's a nice place to be, and we are trying to secure this place by being the best product on the market.
And you are. So recently you announced a partnership with Jetex where you're going to integrate Leon software with their operation system so their customers can use Leon to actually send requests to Jetex and receive releases and confirmations. I know that you already have this partnership with other trip support companies at the same time. Can you elaborate to us how this integration actually works?
Yes, because we started from being an ops software. A lot of things you do in Leon is about preparing a flight, arranging handling agents, doing all this stuff you usually do with trip support companies as well. So trip support companies are using Leon. We have probably almost 30 customers who are actually trip support companies themselves, but also a lot of our customers are requesting services from Jetex. Jetex is pretty popular trip support company, so they were very actively supporting the idea of integration. The collaboration with them went really smooth, so we were very happy to deliver that. And it's at the very beginning of deployment, I would say. This is really fresh integration, but we have already positive feedback from a couple of customers saying that it's good, it works very well, and I think we will add more features to that. Basically speaking, it allows you to, because normally when you arrange something, you send email. This is the typical way of doing things in 21st century, unfortunately. But if you are sending something to Jetex now, you can do it just from the interface of Leon, without being required to go to email. So the integration is omitting email communication, basically. So it's faster. It's easier for you to arrange some service. And also, if the service is delivered on Jetex side, then the statuses of those services, are they delivered, are they in progress, or whatever, are being updated automatically. So you don't need to do this manually. It's all about those small things which saves you seconds, and then when you multiply this by hundreds of flights, then you save minutes and then hours. So in every single small detail of the work flow, we are trying to find some time savings, and this is one of the examples.
It's a very good example of how IT are helping the aviation industry becoming more effective and more efficient. Thank you so much, Pawel. Before we close, I have a question that I'm sure all the audience are looking forward to listen to. You have a successful career. you moved from being a technical person in IT and aviation into being a successful aviapreneur, as we call it here, and starting building and growing a successful aviation business. Many people would like to follow your path. So what you recommend them to do to start, build, and grow a successful business? What it takes to achieve that success?
I think I really I would love to give some advice. Maybe I have one, but before I say this advice, I would like to say that I failed my previous company. So Leon was not the first company I was doing. My previous failed, so I have a 50% ratio of success, let's say. So I'm not confident that I'm an expert, but what I think, it's not my quote, but in the short term, you are as good as your intensity, but in long term, you are as good as your consistency. And I think it's really, I mean, you need to have fun from doing things. And then on top of that, you need to find a way to do this consistently, even if you're fed up with doing these things at the very particular moment. You need to have this kind of this drive to do this for years without effect. I mean, I would say that expecting results out of the business, which is a niche business, sooner than a couple of years is probably unrealistic. We are very often bombarded by success stories from media where you have those unicorn companies making billions, you know, and this is really, really crazy. And then when you are doing your own business, you are thinking, where am I? Why my business is so small? It doesn't work. No, it works. You need to be aware that it's not the world of Teslas everywhere. I think it's very important to agree to be persistent.
Yeah, so there are two components. You need to be persistent and have fun from doing these things, and I think it's enough just to have those two things, because there are gonna be up and downs in the path of doing the business. Of course, you cannot be you cannot resign after 1 year, 2 years of doing things. Like, I'm watching your initiative, and it's very nice. I see that you started from, you know, you are very consistent, like giving you as an example. You are doing these interviews consistently. You have more people, you are interviewing new people, you have more followers, but it needs time. You need to invest a lot of time. You cannot expect results, you know, rapidly. And it's all about consistency and this and being able to overcome this maybe, you know, worse times, let's say, like that. I don't know what's your experience, because you're also doing things for quite a while right now. What's your experience?
I appreciate that. Yes, definitely. Actually, I talked to 30 plus aviapreneurs so far, and what you advise is definitely what many of them advised. You have to be consistent. And what you mentioned about your first startup, that you had a failure, actually failure is just part of the process. I mean, I always tell people, even if you failed the first business or the second business, the third is definitely going to be a success, because it's a process. You learn from it and you're going to be successful. And having fun is very important, because it's a journey and we don't need to wait till we reach the destination. And thank you for mentioning about my consistency with aviapreneurs. It's thanks for you and for all the other aviapreneurs who are accepting to join me and to share their stories, their knowledge and experience with the audience, where we are starting to becoming a platform where successful aviation entrepreneurs, aviapreneurs, are gathering to help the industry grow and flourish and become a better industry. Thank you so much, Pawel. I appreciate your time, knowledge, and insights.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you to all the aviapreneurs and the amazing aviation professionals who joined us today. I'm sure you found great value and many things to learn from Pawel and from Leon Software story. I look forward to seeing you again with another aviapreneur from this beautiful, big and small aviation world at the same time. Have a great day. See you next week.